I'm sitting in a hotel room right now, and my phone has over 400 missed calls. My mother is facing felony fraud charges. My sister is technically homeless, and I'm being called the villain of the family. All of this because I refuse to let them steal the only thing my grandmother left me. If you think your family is toxic, wait until you hear what mine did for a dream wedding. I've always been the reliable daughter. In my family, that's just a nice way of saying I'm the one they ignore until they need money or a favor. My younger sister, Chloe, is the polar opposite. She's the miracle baby, the one who couldn't do anything wrong, even when she crashed my first car or stole my savings in high school to buy designer shoes. My parents, Susan and Mark, always had the same excuse. OP, you're strong, you can handle it. Chloe is sensitive, she needs us more. 3 years ago, my grandmother passed away. She saw exactly how I was treated. In her will, she bypassed my parents and Chloe entirely, leaving me her 3-bedroom cottage in a prime location. It wasn't just a house, it was my freedom. I moved in, spent every weekend stripping wallpaper, fixing the plumbing, and turning it into a sanctuary. My family hated it. Every Thanksgiving was a lecture on how selfish I was for living in a house with extra bedrooms while Chloe was struggling in a studio apartment. Struggling, by the way, because she refused to work more than 10 hours a week at a boutique. The real drama started 6 months ago when Chloe got engaged to Brad. Brad comes from a country club family. They have money, status, and a very specific image. Chloe decided she needed a $150,000 wedding to match his energy. The problem? My parents have zero savings. They spent it all on Chloe's failed influencer trips and modeling schools over the years. At a family dinner, the bomb was dropped. My dad sat me down, looked me dead in the eye, and said, OP, we've talked about it. We've decided the best way to handle the wedding is for you to sell the cottage. You can move back into your old room here, and the equity will cover Chloe's venue and dress. It's what Grandma would have wanted. Family supporting family. I didn't even yell. I just stared at him. I told him Grandma left the house to me specifically because she knew they'd blow the money in a week. I told them no, clearly and firmly. I thought that was the end of it. For a month, they were surprisingly nice. Chloe even sent me inspo photos for my maid of honor dress. I thought they had finally grown up. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I came home to find a for sale sign in my front yard. Not just any sign. A sold sticker was being slapped onto it by a local realtor. I jumped out of my car, heart pounding, and asked the guy what he was doing. He looked at me confused and said, The owners, Susan and Mark, finalized the private sale this morning. The new buyers are coming for the final walkthrough tomorrow. I felt the world tilt. I went inside and checked my safe. The deed was gone. My mother had used her spare key, the one I gave her for emergencies, to break into my home office, steal the documents, and they had used a family friend notary to forge my signature on a power of attorney. They hadn't just asked for the house, they had stolen it. I was about to call the police immediately. My finger was hovering over the dial, but then I realized if I stopped it now, they would just play the victims. They'd say it was a misunderstanding or paperwork error. I wanted them to feel the exact moment the floor fell out from under them. I decided to play the long game. I called my mom, acting like I had had a change of heart. I told her I was moving my things out. I was actually putting them in a secure storage unit they didn't know about. I told them I was so happy for Chloe that I wanted to help coordinate the wedding vendors since I was living back at home now. They were so blinded by greed, they didn't even find it suspicious. They thought they had won. For the next 4 months, I watched them spend money they didn't have. Because the house sale was a private cash offer with a long closing period, my parents took out a massive bridge loan using the house as collateral. They were spending like royalty. Chloe got the $20,000 custom gown. They booked a 5-star resort for the weekend. They even invited 300 people, including Brad's wealthy associates. I spent those months working with a lawyer and a private investigator in secret. We gathered the security footage of my mom entering my house when I wasn't there. We got the notary to admit, on a recorded line, that he never saw me sign the papers and was paid $5,000 under the table to look the other way. I had everything. Every receipt of their betrayal was filed away. The night of the rehearsal dinner, my dad toasted to new beginnings and thanked me for being such a generous sister. I just smiled and took a sip of water. I knew that in 24 hours, his life would be over. The wedding day was beautiful. Chloe looked like a princess, completely oblivious to the fact that she was standing on a foundation of lies. As the maid of honor, I was responsible for the tribute slideshow that played during the reception dinner. Everyone was settled in. Brad's parents, their high society friends, the whole town. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered to life. It didn't start with photos of Chloe as a baby. It started with a voice recording. It was a clip from 2 months ago, a conversation I recorded in the kitchen. My mother's voice rang out clearly through the expensive speakers. I can't believe OP is so stupid. She actually thinks we're going to let her move back in. Once the house money clears, we're changing the locks and letting her figure it out on her own. She's always been the family workhorse. Why stop now? Then, the screen showed the forged deed, side by side with my actual signature. Then a scan of the police report I had filed that morning, just 2 hours before the ceremony. The room went deathly silent. You could hear a pin drop. I walked up to the podium, took the microphone, and looked at my sister, whose face was turning a ghostly shade of white. I said, "Since this wedding was funded by the illegal sale of my home and a fraudulent loan, I figured it was only fair to share the budget with everyone here. Chloe, I hope the dress was worth it, because the police are waiting at the entrance to talk to Mom and Dad about felony identity theft and mortgage fraud. And Brad, you might want to check the prenup because your new in-laws are officially bankrupt." The chaos that followed was legendary. Brad's father, a very prominent judge, stood up and told Brad they are leaving immediately. The wedding was canceled on the spot. My mother tried to lung at me, screaming that I was a traitor, but the security I had hired, disguised as guests, stepped in. As I walked out of the venue, I saw the flashing lights of the police cars pulling up. My parents were taken in for questioning. The private buyers of my house. It turns out they were actually a shell company my lawyer helped me set up to track where the money was going. I never lost the house. I just let my parents think they sold it so they would incriminate themselves with the bridge loan. Now, the extended family is divided. My aunts and uncles are calling me cold-blooded for ruining Chloe's life over just a building. They say I should have handled it internally. But where were they when my parents were stealing my future? My sister is currently staying on a friend's couch because Brad broke up with her via text. My parents are facing years of legal battles and a mountain of debt they can never repay. And me, I'm back in my cottage. I changed the locks, installed a high-end security system, and I've never slept better. They wanted a wedding to remember, and I made sure no one would ever forget it.